So friends, now it's time to begin part 2 of the same story, On the Face of It. But before we begin, let's recollect the very last scene we had left with on part 1. What was it towards the end? I had told you he said something to which Mr. Lamb had reverted. What had Derry said? You remember when Derry was asking him about his friends, and he says, I have friends everywhere. People come in, people walk out, they come and sit near the fire during winter, they come for toffees because I make toffees too. Kids come for apples and pears, so there are friends. So positively he said it. And what does Derry end it with? He says, but I'm not a friend. So that's where we had concluded part 1, and let's move on to see the story further. So, when Derry had said the line, but I'm not a friend, and what does Mr. Lamb say to it? Certainly you are. So far as I'm concerned, so far as it's about me, if it's related to me, you definitely are. What have you done to make me think you're not? They say, have you done anything to make me think that you're not my friend? You don't know me. Now, just when we are reading these lines, just look, how as an optimist, Mr. Lamb is going on showing him the positive things, and how Derry, being a pessimist, is going on looking at the negative things. So while we are reading, just, keep that in mind. Just look at it. So Derry says, you don't know me. You don't know where I come from or even what my name is. You know nothing about me. How do you call me your friend? And Mr. Lamb say to this, why should that signify? Why is that important? Do I have to write your particulars, your details down and put them in a filing box before you can be a friend? So to be a friend, I need to know all these details of yours, or do I have to write them down somewhere? I suppose not. No, he says. You could tell me your name if you chose, and not if you didn't. He says, if you want, you can tell me your name, or else even if you don't, it's fine with me. He says, Derry. Only it's Derek. But I hate that. Derry, if I'm your friend, you don't have to be mine. I choose that. He says, it's because, okay, fine, I want to befriend you. I want to be friends with you. But it's not necessary that the same thing comes from the opposite end. Maybe you don't want to be friends with me. Certainly, he says, yeah, it's true. I might never come here again. You might never see me again, and then I couldn't still be a friend. He says, maybe I never come back here again. This is a very, sheer coincidence we have met, but I may never come back, and will I still be a friend? Is it possible? He says, why not? How could I? You pass people in the street. You might even speak to them, but you never see them again. It doesn't mean they are friends. He says people pass by, you just give a hi, hello, and they never come back to you again. How do you define them as your friends? Doesn't mean they are enemies either, does it? He says, fine, if according to you, they are not my friends because they don't come back, they don't keep in touch, they are not friends. But at the same time, does it mean that they are my enemies? No, they are just nothing. People, that's all. He's saying, no, it's neither. You cannot define them as friends, you cannot define them as enemies, but a neutral thing. They are people. People are never just nothing. Never. He says, don't think people are just people. It's not like that at all. They are never just nothing. There are some people I hate. Now you see how he's all coming about, all the negativity is coming, all, whatever is filled within him is just pouring out. He says, there are some people I hate that do you more harm than any bottle of acid. Acid only burns your face. He's saying this line that you're moving with, this perception, this thought process that you're going on with, there are some people I hate. He's saying this line, this thought process of yours will do way much more harm than a bottle of acid. He says the bottle of acid burnt your face, but this, what you're going on with, that I hate some people, will harm you much, much more. So what he says, acid only burns your face. Derry says, only? Mr. Lamb, like a bomb, only blew up my leg. Now, you know how he's trying to, for Derry, obviously that one bottle of acid ruined his entire life. His everything changed in his life. So for him, it's not only, it's the big thing, it's the only thing that ruined his life. Whereas, how does Mr. Lamb say it? Like a bomb, only blew up my leg. Do you see? The placement of the word only changes the whole mind, the whole meaning of it. There's worse thing can happen. You can burn yourself away inside. He says the acid burnt your face. But this thought process where you're going on hating people will totally burn you from inside. After I'd come home, one person said he'd have been better off stopping in there, in the hospital. He'd be better off with others like himself. She thinks blind people only ought to be with other blind people and idiot boys with idiot boys. He says, you know, when after I had come home, I had got to hear so many things. I had got to hear that he should not be at home. He should be with those people in the hospital who are suffering the same pain, who are in the same situation, who are in the same condition. So these are the lines I have heard. So basically, I shouldn't have been home. This is what he was trying to say. He's saying he'd be better off with others like himself, with the same condition that he is. He should be with those people who are also in the same condition. She thinks blind people only ought to be with blind and idiot boys with idiot boys. He says, this is what I have heard. This is what I have come across. Mr. Lamb says, and people with no legs altogether? He says, you mean to say, so I should be with people who have no legs? Is that what you're trying to tell me? That's right. That's what I'm saying. What kind of a world would that be? He says, do you even think, do you even realize if this is what you are saying, if this is how it should be, like idiot boys with idiot boys, people with no legs together, they will move on together. Do you even realize, do you even think of it, how that world would be? At least there'd be nobody to stare at you because you weren't like them. He says maybe it would be such a world that nobody would stare at you, because even if that person is facing the same problem, if he has a burnt face like me, he wouldn't stare at me because he himself is in that condition. It's a similar situation. So maybe at least he wouldn't stare at me like how people do. So you think you are just the same as all the other people with burnt faces? He's saying, you mean to say that if you have a burnt face and if B, there's another person who has a burnt face, you guys are similar? Is that all? Just by what you look like? You mean to say the similarity comes only on the basis of your, the same looking faces? Oh, everything's different. Everything's the same, but everything is different itself. Big line. He says everything is different. Okay, maybe this is same. The face is same. But still, are you guys the same people? Are you guys with the same qualities, with the same characteristics, with the same thought process? Maybe he who has a burnt face is probably a positive person, that at least my other organs are fine. But there may be a person like Derry who's only looking at the negative part. How are you similar? You are way different. So that's what he tells him. Everything's the same, but everything is different. Physically, yes, you may be the same with the burnt face, but actually everything is different. How do you make all that out? He says, how do you do it? This is what, Mr. Lamb is trying to, inject all the positivity in him. He's trying to change his focus, that look at the brighter side. Come out of the darkness, come out of the sadness. Look, there is a better life to live. Mr. Lamb, he asked him the question, right? How do you make all that out? How do you do it? What does Mr. Lamb say? Watching, listening, thinking. He's saying, this is what I do. I observe. When I watch, I literally observe. I listen attentively, and I think deeply. This is what I do. This is how my whole system works. And that's the reason today I am living a very happy life in spite of my leg being made out of tin. I'd like a place like this. He's saying, I'd love to be in a place like this, a garden. I'd like a house with no curtains. He's saying, now he's looking at it. He's saying, I would also love to be the same. I would also like to, look at a place like this, such a beautiful garden. Even I want to live in a house with no darkness. I want, equal sunshine coming, and I even want to love the darkness. The gate's always open. He says, the gate is always open. Walk in whenever you want. But this isn't mine. Oh my God. Again, another negative thing. He says, but this is not mine. This belongs to you. How is it mine? Everything's yours if you want it. What's mine is anybody's. Height of positivity. He is to the extreme end. Everywhere there he stops, everywhere there he has a doubt, everywhere there he has a problem, Mr. Lamb brings forward a beautiful solution. So what he says, everything's yours if you want it. What's mine is anybody's. He says, whatever belongs to me is anybody's. And if you really want it, come. So I could come here again. Even if you were out, I could come here. He says, so even if you are not here, can I come here? I mean, is it okay with you? Certainly. You might find others here, of course. He says, today, right now, it's just you and me. But the next time you come, you might even find other people over here. Oh, well, that needn't stop you. You needn't mind. He says, so what? So what if there are other people in the garden out here? That should not stop you from coming here. It's okay. Don't even mind it. It stop them. He's saying, I might come, but looking at me, they might stop coming. They'd mind me. They would not like it if I'm there when they saw me here. They look at my face and run. People see my face and they run away. So if I come here, the problem is not for me. The problem is for those other people who will be there. They would mind me coming there. They might not. He says possible. Very true. He's not denying it. He says, yes, it is possible. They might mind it, but it is also the case they might not. You'd have to take the risk. So would they. He's saying both of you will have to take a chance. You also take the risk, even they would take a risk. No, you would. You might have me and lose your other friends because nobody wants to stay near me if they can help it. He's saying, actually, what happens, Mr. Lamb? You will lose all your friends. The risk is at your end. I might start coming, but the other so many people who are coming, all of them might stop coming because of me. The problem will come to you because I know whoever stays near me, they want to run away if it's possible. And it's possible for them. They will not come to your garden. They might just leave. I've not moved. He's saying, I have never been influenced by this. Never. It's not a problem. Derry, no. When I go down the street, the kids shout, "Lay me lamb." But they still come into the garden, into my house. It's a game. He's saying, see, when I walk down the street, the kids call me by this name, "Lay me lamb," right? They know I have this problem. But still, in spite of knowing the fact, right, they still come into my garden. They still come for the apples, for the pears, for the toffees. They still come knowing the fact that I have this problem. They are not afraid of me. Now that's the game. He says this is a game. They are not afraid of me. Why should they be? Because I am not afraid of them. That's why not. He says, give me one reason. Are we ghosts? Why would they be afraid? Just because I don't have a proper leg? Is that the only reason to keep them away from me? No, it's not. In fact, I am not afraid of them. So it's okay. They'll also not be afraid of me. Did you get your leg blown off in the war? He says that injury that you got, that leg injury. So did it get blown off in the war? He says, of course, certainly. Now, blown off, he's been saying that line again and again. How will you climb on a ladder and get the crab apples down then? He says, then, Derry gets that thing in the mind. Remember, he had told him initially, you come back, give me a hand, come and support me. I want to bring those crab apples down. So he says, with this situation that you are, with that artificial leg, how will you climb up the stairs and pull down the crab apples? How will you pluck them? Oh, there's a lot of things I've learned to do. and plenty of time for it. Years, I take it steady. He says, now this has come to me since years. Now because of that, I didn't stop. I didn't stop doing things. I learned the ways to do it. I have overcome this condition. Because of this condition, I can't sit down and cry over it for years together. Now that was a problem. That's always the case with our students. We go round and round the problem. Oh, I'm facing this. Oh, I'm facing this. This has come to me. But the problem is, the biggest problem is, we don't focus on the solution. We focus only on the problem. We are round and round and round the problem. We need to, divert. We need to change our focus and look at the solution. That is going to help us out of the problem rather than going round that problem. So yes, he says, look, this is what it is. I actually got this problem, but then I started looking at ways, how do I overcome this? How do I deal with this situation? So yes, he said, I learned a lot to do, plenty of time for it, years. I take it steady. He says, I took it gradually, day by day, I went on learning things. I went on, overcoming the obstacles. So fine, I am in a very good position right now. If you fell and broke your neck, you could lie on the grass and die. Now Derry tells him, with this leg of yours, if you went up the ladder, if you fell, if you broke your neck, what would happen is you could lie on the grass and you would be dead. If you were on your own, he says, if you do that alone, this is what is going to happen to you. Mr. Lamb says, it's possible. Very true, I could. You said I could help you. Derry says, okay, you had mentioned that I can come and help you. Mr. Lamb says, I'm not forcing you. If you want to, yes, you can come. But my mother wants to know where I am. Now, remember, he's a boy of 13, 14 years. So obviously, the mother's concern is always there. So he says, but obviously, my mother would want to know where I am. Where am I going? It's 3 miles home from the garden to the house. It's 3 miles across the fields. I'm 14, but they still want to know where I am. Now, obviously, the concern is always there. Even if you turn 20, 25, 30, even if you become a parent yourself, your mother will always be concerned about you. That's the attachment. People worry. He says it's very valid. People will worry. He says people fuss. They actually have unnecessary concern. Go back and tell them. He says, fine, you do one thing. You go back. You go and you tell them and you come back. He says, it's 3 miles. It will take me time. It's a fine evening. You've got legs. See the words, how he tells him. He says, see, the weather is nice. You've got your legs. Start moving. Start walking. Go inform and come back. Once I got home, they'd never let me come back. Now, do you see this? Do you really see this? Every time he's coming up with a problem, how Mr. Lamb is really solving it. He's giving him a solution to everything. I mean, how Derry's, thought process works. But if you look at it, actually that situation has made him a person like this. He's become a pessimist. Yeah, so obviously, now he did not have a counselor like Mr. Lamb. So generally what happens when people, face situations, such worse conditions, you start having a counselor to guide you through. They start making you look at all your blessings rather than at the problem you're actually facing at that point of time. So he says, again, another problem. Once I get home, they might not allow me to come back here. Once you got home, you'd never let yourself come back. He says, you know what? You go there, you go home, but it is you who's stopping yourself. You don't want to come back. Derry, you don't know. You don't know what I could do. He says, you have no idea what I can do. No, only you know that. He says, obviously, it's within you. It's you who has to work upon. So obviously, you know how to do it. Derry says, if I choose to do it, possible. If you chose. So basically, it's your willingness. If you will want to do it, it will happen. And that's the case. Let's come back to your studies. If you choose to really top the class, you can. It's in your hands. It's your determination. It's your willingness. So if you want to do things, they can happen, they will happen. He says, I don't know everything, boy. I can't tell you what to do. He's saying, I don't know exactly, what's going on at your end. So obviously, I cannot guide you there. He says, they tell me. Do you have to agree? He's saying, okay, fine. They tell you not to come back. But is it that you have to agree upon it? I mean, if you're coming with a good intention, you're coming with to come and help me out, you're coming to do something good, then do you have to agree? Yes, don't take this line wrong. He's not misguiding him that don't obey your parents. This is not what he's trying to do. He's just telling him if you're coming for something good to do, then it's fine. Then it's okay if you disagree. I don't know what I want. He's saying, I am a confused person. I am that confused one. I want something no one else has got or ever will have. Something just mine, like this garden. I don't know what it is. Now the problem is there is fog in his head. Everything is foggy. There is nothing clear in his mind. That's the reason so many doubts and so many questions. He says, I only don't know what I want. Do I want a garden which is just mine? I don't know what it is. He says, you could find out. Says, how? Waiting, watching, listening. Sitting here or going there, I'll have to see to the bees. He's saying, see, this is how I work. This is the main line that I work upon. I observe, I watch, I listen. Sitting here or going there, it's up to me whether I want to sit here or go there. I'll have to see to the bees. I'll have to go and see the bees as well. You remember they had spoken about the humming and the singing bees. Those other people who come here, do they talk to you? Ask you things? Now again, he has another set of questions. He says, okay, so tell me one thing. When other people come to your garden, do they really talk to you or do they even really, ask you things? He says, some do, some don't. I ask them. I like to learn. He says, I don't know about them. Some of them ask, some of them don't. But I talk to people. Why? Because I want to learn. And it's true. When you communicate with people, when you exchange ideas, you get to learn a lot. So it's good to talk to people who have, who are very well equipped, who are really good at things, who are really, who can really get to know you a lot more or add to your knowledge. It's good to talk to them. So Derry says, I don't believe in them. I don't think anybody ever comes. You are here all by yourself and miserable, and no one would know if you were alive or dead, and nobody cares. Now, Derry says, listen, I'll tell you one thing. According to what you are telling me, I don't believe in those. I don't believe in them. I don't think anybody ever comes. He started doubting it. He says, I don't even think really anybody comes here. You are here all by yourself. You are totally alone and miserable. You are totally unhappy. And you are so alone that even if you die, nobody would ever come to know that there is a dead body in this house. Nobody will even come to know about it. And nobody really cares. You think what you please. Now Mr. Lamb says, look, if your mind is going in that direction, in that same wrong angle, then you please think what you want. All right then, tell me some of their names. Now, he's trying to get it out of him that, are you seriously telling me such good things happen to you? Okay, he says, now tell me some of the names. What are names? Tom, Dick or Harry? Getting up. I'm off down to the bees. He says, okay, fine. What do I do with those names? It can be any Tom, Dick and Harry. It can be anybody. Yeah, Tom, Dick and Harry is generally, we say that it can be any Tom, Dick and Harry. It can be anybody. That's the way we use it. He says, I'm off now. I'm leaving down to the bees. I think you're daft. You're crazy. Now, Derry tells him, you know what? I really think you're really mad. You've lost it. You're totally insane. That's a good excuse. He's saying, now, you're just trying to justify that I'm wrong, So, that's a good excuse from your end. What for? You don't talk sense. He's saying, you're not even talking sense. It's not what I am doing. Good excuse not to come back. He says, okay, now you know what why are you telling me this? Because you don't want to come back. You're finding every reason, every excuse not to come back here. and you've got a burnt up face, and that's other people's excuse. He's saying and the other people's excuse is what? Because you have a burnt up face, they will not come. So these are only excuses that y'all are playing with. Y'all are literally ruining everything. You are like the others. You like to say things like that. If you don't feel sorry for my face, you are frightened of it. And if you are not frightened, you think I'm ugly as a devil. I am a devil. Don't you? Now he's actually getting frustrated with all that positiveness what Mr. Lamb is giving him. He literally removes his frustration in these words, literally shouting at these words. He says, you are like the others. You like to say things like that. He's saying, just like everyone tells me things, even you are telling me things. If you don't feel sorry for my face, you are frightened. He's saying, you're not sorry about my face. In that case, you are frightened. Or if you are not frightened, then you think I'm an ugly person. As ugly as a devil. I am a devil, don't you? He literally shouts. He says, don't you think like that? Mr. Lamb does not reply. He has gone to his bees. Let's visualize. Come on, keep visualizing the scene as I'm, going on with the story. Keep building up those images in your mind. He keeps shouting and Mr. Lamb has gone to his bees. Derry, quietly. No, you don't. I like it here. Now, he's cooled down. That steam has come out of the pressure has come out. And now he's little sort of soothed down. He has settled down. He says, you don't. I like it here. Pause. Derry gets up and shouts. I'm going, but I'll come back. You see, you wait. I can run. I haven't got a tin leg. I'll be back. Now remember, Mr. Lamb has gone to his bees, and before Derry is leaving from there, he says, look, please wait for me. I will come back. I can definitely run. My legs have no issues. They have no problems like yours. I will go running and I will come back. Please wait. Derry runs off. Silence. The sounds of the garden again. Now everything is absolutely the way it was initially in the first scene. Derry has left. Mr. Lamb is with the bees. Mr. Lamb to himself. There, my dears. That's you, scene 2. Scene 2 as in a work or an activity has been completed. Now, who are the dears here? When he's talking to the bees. Right now, he's with the bees. So that's you. Okay, now he has dealt with them. He did what he was supposed to do. We all know. I'll come back. They never do though. Not them. Never do come back. He says, now he was under the thing that, okay, Derry has left. He has told him and gone, I'll come back. But he is totally doubtful. In fact, he has made up the thing in his mind that he is not going to come back. People say it, but they never come back. The garden noises fade and gradually that scene is changing. Now, scene 2 is at Derry's house. Now, Derry has reached his house. Now, the conversation with, between these two, the mother and Derry. Now, you think I don't know about him? You think I haven't heard things? Now, Derry is trying to convince his mom and his mom has things to say. She's saying, what do you think? I'm not aware of that person. I haven't heard about him. You shouldn't believe all you hear. Now, all the gyan, all the knowledge which he got from Mr. Lamb is now passing on to the mother. Yes? So he says, you shouldn't believe all you hear. Remember, these lines were said by Mr. Lamb. Mother, been told, warned. I have been warned. People have told me to be careful, to be cautious. We've not lived here 3 months. But I know what there is to know and you are not to go back there. He says, it's not just 3 months that I'm here. We have been living since long. So I'm totally aware of everything. Don't think that I know it all. I totally know everything. And I know what I'm supposed to know. So please, you are not going back there. Now, the mother is stopping Derry not to go back. Derry, what are you afraid of? What do you think he is? An old man with a tin leg, and he lives in a huge house without curtains and has a garden. Now he's looking at the brighter side. And I want to be there and sit and listen to things. Listen and look. Now do you see? All what he got from Mr. Lamb, he is now pouring it out in front of his mother. He says, what are you afraid of? Tell me, give me one good reason that why I shouldn't go there. He is an old man. He has a big house. The house has no curtains. I want to be in that garden. I want to listen to things. I want to look around. Everything is so beautiful. So why I shouldn't go? Listen to what? She says, what do you want to go and listen over there in that garden? The bees singing, him talking. Who's the him talking? Mr. Lamb. You know, when he talks to him, Derry feels good because he is helping him pull out of the, the darkness that he is in, he is surrounded with. After what's he got to say to you? He's saying after all that he has told you, now he went and told his mom everything what Mr. Lamb told him. So he's saying after what he told you all this, you still want to go and listen to him talking? Is that the case? Things that matter. Things nobody else has ever said. Things I want to think about. He says, yes. I don't want to hear everything. I want to hear things that matter to me. I want to hear things nobody else has ever told me. Things I want to think about. I want to think the way he thinks. I like it. I feel good when I am with him. Then you stay here and do your thinking. You are best of here. And the mother is insisting. He's saying, be it whatever. Whatever thinking you want to do, whatever listening you want to do, you are best at home. You are not going anywhere. Derry says, but I hate it here. You can't help the things you say. I forgive you. It's bound to make you feel bad things and say them. I don't blame you. She says, look, I understand. I totally understand from which angle you are talking, why you hate it here. You can't even help the things. I totally forgive you for the same. It's bound to make you feel bad. It's definite. These things around here will make you feel bad. I don't even blame you for the same. I don't hold you responsible. It is, I understand. It's got nothing to do with my face and what I look like. He says, Mom, that's not the case. It has nothing to do with what I am looking like. I don't care about that and it isn't important. Now. You see, Mr. Lamb's words, they are all working. He says, I don't care about it and it's not even really important. It's what I think and feel and what I want to see and find out and hear. He says, these things don't matter to me any longer. Not really. What I want to do is, I want to do things which I think, what I feel, I want to see and find out and hear. And I'm going back there. Only to help him with the crab apples. Now he's also explaining to his mother, why am I insisting to go back there? Only to look at things and listen, but I'm going. He says, I'm going to go for all the things that I'm going to, I'll help him out, I'll talk, I'll listen, I'll do everything. I'm going. Mother, you'll stop here. Oh no. Because if I don't go back there, I'll never go anywhere in this world again. A very big line. He says, you know something, if I don't go back to that garden, if I don't go back to Mr. Lamb, I'll never go anywhere in this world again. The door slams, Derry runs, panting. He's, got a heavy breath. With a very, those quick breaths, he's moving. And I want the world. I want it. While he's running, these things are going on. He says, okay, now that's freedom. That's freedom from my darkness. I definitely want it. The sound of his panting fades. He was breathing, with short and quick breaths. Now that noise fades away. Scene 3, Mr. Lamb's garden. Garden sounds, the noise of a branch, shifting apples, thumping down. Thumping is, he was putting them down. It was falling with a heavy sound. The branch shifting again. Now he's trying to pull apples, you see. So he's pulling down the branch, taking it and putting the apples down. So this whole process is going on. Mr. Lamb, steady. Got it. That's it. More apples fall. And again, that's it. And now what is happening here? He is pulling the crab apples down. He is plucking and throwing them down. Now he has already started doing it. Why? Just watch. A creak, a crash. A creak is a high-pitched sound when being moved or due to excessive pressure. The creaky sounds comes. there's a crash. The ladder falls back. There was a crash. A crash of what? The ladder falls back. Mr. Lamb with it. A thump. The branch swishes back. He had held a branch, and because the ladder fell, this branch went back. It swishes back. It moves with a hissing sound. It creaks, then silence. Derry opens the garden gate, still panting. Now, do you see, do you realize what's happening? Now, here, Mr. Lamb was on the ladder and he fell off the ladder. At the same time, Derry was at the gate. He was breathing heavily because he had come running from his house. He opens the gate, and what does he find? What has happened? You see, I came back. You said I wouldn't, and they said, but I came back. I wanted. Now he's come running, he's opened the gate, and why he opened the gate? He came shouting, you see, I'm back. You told me, I mean, you did not, but yes, in fact, your encouragement, your motivation brought me back here. I am back. He stops dead. As he moves, he realizes, he just stops. Silence. Mr. Lamb, Mr. You've, and he sees him down there. He runs through the grass, stops, and he kneels down. Why? Mr. Lamb is lying down there. He had fallen off the ladder. He goes and he kneels down. Mr. Lamb, it's all right. You fell. I am here. Mr. Lamb, it's all right. He's trying to tell him that, he's trying to make him talk. He's trying to make him move. He says, look, now I'm here to help you. I came back, Lammy Lamb. Now even he calls him. He says, look, I'm here. I did come back. He's saying, I had found all excuses not to come back, but I wanted to be back here and I'm here now. Derry begins to weep. Why? Because it was the end of Mr. Lamb. Remember the conversation he had told him during his conversation, that even if you fall off the ladder, when he was telling him, I'll climb up and I've learned things to do. He tells him that even if you go up and if you fall down and you might even die, you might break your neck, nobody will even know. He had told him those words. And did he ever realize that I am telling these words now and it is just about to happen? It exactly happened in the same manner. Mr. Lamb was lying there dead. That brings us to the end. It's a very sad end. But let's look at it. Let's be optimists. Let's look at it. Derry found a way to live. Yes, we did lose Mr. Lamb, but Derry found a new journey. He boarded on a new journey. He is going to definitely now look at things the way Mr. Lamb did. And I guess this gives us the same message. What message? I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination. Jimmy Dean has said this very beautiful line. He says, look, I cannot change the direction of the wind, but I can definitely adjust my sails. I have the problem. Derry had the problem, right? But he couldn't do anything about it. Now, he had a burnt face, but he had to find ways. He had to, live a life like Mr. Lamb did. And then, obviously, there was no stopping. There was no stopping to reach him, to get him to his destination, to reach his destination. And that's exactly what goes to you. Nothing stops you. Irrespective of anything that comes your way, students, learn to overcome them. Learn to reach your destination. Focus on the solution and not the problem. Right? So here we end, and here's my line to you. Keep watching and keep learning.